Now, this is episode 1. Okay, I'm not sure I realized that. Yep, if I consume, Julie. Of course. Until I didn't know this, definitely. If I consume. Yep, if you consume, Julie. Until you realize that, definitely. So, what we're gonna do? I don't know. Of course. Well, can't figure it out with them, definitely. If you consume. Yep, if you consume. Okay. I don't see them around here, Julie. They're supposed to be around here, definitely. Of course. So you didn't know this? Nope, if you can assume. Okay. Do I realize that, actually? I'm not sure about them. Definitely? Of course. You not sure? Yep. Not sure, Vigily. Of course. So you didn't know this? Nope. If you can assume. Okay. So you didn't know this. Right, of course. So I realized that. Yep, if you can assume. Okay. Not sure you realize that. I know, right? If you assume. Yep. Okay. I was gonna make sure you realize that, eventually. Of course. Until you didn't notice. Yep. If you assume. Guess I was right about that, definitely. If you assume. Yep. Okay. To realize that, eventually. I know, right? Because I said so. I know about that condition, Vigily. Of course. Until you didn't know this? Yep. Okay. I was gonna make sure you realize that. I know, right? Hey, Vegasum. Yeah, yep. If I could assume, Julie. Of course. Until you didn't know this? Yep. Okay. I'm not sure of Julie, but it does, definitely. Sure you realize that? Yep, if you could assume, I guess. Eventually, to realize that. Yeah, yep. Okay. You're not sure? Yep. Because I'm not sure of Julie. Of course. Until I didn't notice. Yeah, yep, if you can assume. Till I realize that. Yeah, yep. Okay. I was gonna make sure you realize that. I know, right? So, if you can assume. Yep. Okay. Not sure what else actually. Of course. Until you didn't know this. Yep. Okay. Until I realized that. Yep. Okay. I was gonna be sure. I know, right? Bye. So you realize that? Yep, if you can assume. Okay. Do you realize that? Yep.